Whether you are falling in love or grieving a loved one's death, you need a little convincing that emotions involve the body. Feeling without body is like breathing without lungs. Some physical responses are easy to notice, but others happen without our awareness. So what we're going to be learning about in this lesson is expressed emotions. Okay, so hopefully by the end of this lesson, we'll be able to answer the following questions. What are some basic emotions? How do our body states relate to specific emotions? How effective are polygraphs in using body states to detect lies? And how do we communicate non-verbally? And how do facial expressions influence our feelings? First, we're going to talk about Carol Izard's 10 basic emotions. She located 10 basic emotions, and these emotions are joy, interest, excitement, surprise, sadness, anger, disgust, contempt, fear, shame, and guilt. Most of these emotions are present in infancy. Although others believed that pride and love are some basic emotions, many researchers have asked, do our different emotions have distinct arousal footprints, or do they cause arousal, or are they caused by arousal? So despite similar bodily responses, sexual arousal, fear, and anger feel different to you and me, and they often look different to others. We may be paralyzed with fear or ready to explode with anger. With the help of sophisticated laboratory tools, researchers have pinpointed some subtle indicators of some different emotions. So do our physical states affect our emotions? Finger temperatures and hormone secretions that accompany fear and rage sometimes do differ. Fear and joy stimulate different facial muscles. Brain scans and EEGs reveal that some emotions also differ in their brain circuits. For example, when you experience negative emotions, such as disgust, your right frontal cortex is more active than your left frontal cortex. So they're going to the EEGs are going to reveal that some emotions differ in their brain circuits. So the negative emotion and disgust are experienced from the right frontal cortex. When you experience positive moods or positive feelings, and you feel like enthusiastic, energized, and happy, your left frontal lobe will be more active. So they're going to see that, these different parts of our brain are going to be active depending on the mood that we're in. So basically, we can't see differences in emotions from tracking heart rate, breathing, and perspiration, but facial expressions and brain activity can vary from one emotion to another. So we, like Pinocchio, can give off signs when we lie. Our emotions are apparent in our facial expressions. So lie detectors, or polygraphs, are machines commonly used to try to detect lies. They measure some bodily responses that come with emotions such as change in heart rate, perspiration, and breathing. The examiner will ask you questions and monitors your response while you're attached to a polygraph. They first ask simple control questions aimed at making you a little nervous, and then the answer will give the examiner a baseline in which to compare the critical questions that they need the answer to and why you are hooked up to the polygraph in the first place. If your response to the critical questions are weaker than the control questions, then the examiner will think you're telling the truth. The idea that only a thief becomes nervous when denying a theft. This is the idea. If you aren't a thief, then you won't be nervous when you deny being a theft. All right, so how accurate are polygraph tests? Critics point out two problems. First, our bodily arousal is much the same from one emotion to another. Our bodies react to anxiety, irritation, and guilt in very similar ways. Second, many innocent people do get tense and nervous when accused of a crime or a bad act. About 1/3 of the polygraph tests are just wrong. So there are a simple method of detecting people's emotions. You read their body language. You listen to their voice tones and you study their faces. People's expressive behaviors reveal their emotions. So each basic emotion is associated first with a unique facial expression. Facial expressions are innate and hardwired. Innate facial expressions are the same across many cultures. So there are certain facial expressions that are universally the same, regardless of where you are in the world. And also, we have display rules, social and cultural rules that regulate our emotional expression, especially facial expressions. In certain places, it's not appropriate to have a particular facial expression in a certain situation. So can outward expression and movement trigger emotions? Psychologist William James struggled with feelings of depression and grief. He came to know that we can control our emotions by going through the outward movements of any emotion we want to experience. So to feel cheerful, sit up cheerfully and look around cheerfully. Act as if cheerfulness were already there. So is James right? Can our outward expression and movements trigger our inner feelings and emotions? People holding a pencil horizontally between their teeth, which force them to have a partial smile, they rate a series of cartoons as funnier than those holding the pencil horizontally between their lips, forcing a partial frown. Experimental expressions soak back into the inner feelings. So yes, if you acting like you're happy and smiling will actually improve your mood. Frowning and encouraging your face to frown, even if it's an experiment, will actually affect your mood. So this brings us, and down here is an example how they can use the pencil experiment. All right, so this explains why depressed patients reportedly feel better after between the eyebrows Botox injections that freezes their frown muscles. The Botox paralysis of the frown muscles also slows people's readings of sadness or anger-related sentences and slows activity and emotion-related brain circuits in such ways that the Botox will smooth the facial wrinkles, but also life's emotional wrinkles. So this is an example of facial feedback effect. So facial feedback effect is the tendency of facial muscle states to trigger corresponding feelings such as fear, anger, happiness. And it really works.